Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us on day 267 at Good Governance GGY. If anybody tuned in a little earlier, we had technical issues, so we are starting again. So today we have Chiranta, we have Chris, we have Damaris, Priyangani, Lisha, Maubrey, and Dushi, and we have a member who shall remain unnamed. So let's get straight to a discussion. Today we don't have a guest, so it's just us. We'll have a bit of a chit chat, but let's start with our first topic, which is about the Easter attack, which happened 5 years ago. To this day, the families and the victims are waiting for justice, and the way things are going right now, we don't see justice happening. Maybe under this administration or the way the investigation has been handled right now. So our only hope is that a future administration will come and deliver justice. Chris, you have some thoughts on this, right?
Yes. Yeah. Firstly, I think to those who are not too familiar with the dates, this happened on 21st of April, 5 years ago. So next 21st will be the actual five-year period since this happened. 5 years since no justice for the victims, 269 plus. Yeah. But this year, every year Easter Sunday falls on a different date. And this year Easter Sunday will be this Sunday, which is the 31st of March. So there will be 2 days that people will be reminded more so that this has happened, and still there is no accountability. Both of those days happen to be Sundays, so we will be having our GGY street protests as usual. So we will make it a point to remind everyone, and especially those in power, that they have done absolutely nothing, and all they have done is whitewash this, and point the finger somewhere else. When this happened, it was a Yahapalana government, and that was in power, and President Maithripala Sirisena was famously his excuse was that he was in Singapore. Then so he didn't know about it, and he wasn't aware. Then our Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said, "Oh,
but his culpability has been established by a court.
Yes,
and he has to make a payment.
Of course,
as reparations he has to pay, which he hasn't, I don't think, paid yet. But what he has done is come out last week and with new information that he knew certain things, which he then walked back and said, actually, I only found out recently. But whoever knew this information allowed people like Hijaz to be persecuted. He was in custody for over a year. He was deprived to witness the birth of his child. I mean, so much that went on during that time.
So the Prime Minister, the time, Ranil Wickremesinghe, washed his hands off, saying he was locked out of the Security Council meetings.
Right.
So what can I do? Well, now he's been president for 2 years. What is he doing about it? Right? He himself, not us. He himself, when he was made acting president, just before he became president, he said it publicly that he was ready to get even Scotland Yard to investigate into this and come to an end. Right. But about 4 or 5 months ago in Germany, to the channel Deutsche Welle, he said no foreign investigation will be permitted by his government. So he's done a 180-degree turn. So this is what happens to, when you get power. Before they get power, they say so many things, but once they get power, they forget all these things and in fact do a 180-degree turn.
Absolute power corrupts.
That's right. So with an election coming up, I think people need to remember these things. Remember very carefully, remember very clearly that these are the rulers that we have currently. They are protecting each other.
You made a point earlier.
Yeah, the point I made earlier was that we are talking about the 269 deaths, or I think 271, I think.
Okay, maybe.
But apart from them, there are those who are injured, maimed, who have still not recovered and they have lifelong injuries. What about then, apart from them, the families who have lost their loved ones?
They're living with no justice.
They're living without closure. There's no justice, so there's no closure for them. And this government just, with a 53 billion budget for defense and law and order, and What is
Yeah.
it?
In fact, you
539 billion.
Five-
Yeah,
539
Chris,
billion.
earlier-
What have they done?
exactly earlier you made the point about how callous they were.
Yeah, oh
in
yes.
their response.
Sorry, I think we should speak about it because that was the Yahapalana government. And I don't think anybody who was in shock that day and was watching the news will ever forget the faces of the ministers there. I think I remember Rajesh Senaratne was there, smiling away. John Amaratunga was there. I think Rauf Hakim was there, if I remember correct, at that media press conference. And I remember John Amaratunga at that time, I don't know whether at that time he was, but at one time during
Yeah,
that
he was.
Minister of Christian Affairs.
He was.
And I remember him saying, when a journalist questioned him, "Dangiting minister like Ivarai."
Yeah.
You know?
That is the same attitude. It's the
Yeah.
same,
No, but-
same as Kahelia's response about Malshala.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but
it's
Chamin,
that
see how
callous-
different they were. This is when 269 innocent people were killed. But when one of their own was killed, of course, he was killed because he pulled out a gun and the mob attacked him. Right? So let's not go into that. But when one of their own was killed, how differently they acted. You know? They had a
Some lives are more equal.
That exactly. So I hope people remember these things. That's all we are here to do. We are here to remind people that we need accountability, we need system change, and we're not getting it with this government.
Yeah.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
want to point on to the fact that why we need justice for these Sunday attacks, why we need accountability, and why we need the perpetrators who are behind the attack behind bars is because if you go to any church, these days, if you go to a church, some churches they don't allow you to bring in a bag. Right? I went to a church far away from Colombo, and I was just sitting for mass with a bag, and the whole community got together and wanted me out of the church. The people who come to the Lord's
That's actually
house,
a kind of trauma.
yeah,
Collective
the
trauma.
Lord's house, thinking of God's protection and His power, they are in fear in God's house of other people. So that is why this needs to come to a closure. Ranil said he is ready to make it come to a closure. But what did he do? He, as
He did a
Chris said,
180
180,
Yeah.
and it's a sheer insult that they are now saying, I heard that it was on the news that churches are now given protection and blah blah blah. Why do churches need protection if the national security in the country has been confirmed? Churches don't need special protection if the national security has been brought under
Chiranda,
control.
I think now we have a lot more information about
Yeah.
that incident, right? So what we were initially made to believe turns out to be a complete fairy tale. But although we have all this information in the public domain, the only thing that's not happening is any action being taken based on that information, right? There's a report with pages missing according to the...
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
1,500 pages.
pages
And
missing
also
according to
Channel 4 did a
documentary.
step by step
Right.
from over years how it built
Right.
up to where it got to.
So I think people need to remember how we felt 5 years ago when it happened,
Yeah.
right? The outrage, the anger, the hurt. And when we go to the ballot box, I think that needs to be a factor because we know who's not going to deliver justice, right? So
That's the best point.
Yeah, I mean,
We
we
know
know
who's
who's
not
not
going
going to
to
deliver justice. That part we know because people who are in power right now, they've been in power for 2 years.
Yeah.
And if they had any intention of delivering justice, they could have at least initiated something in good faith, which hasn't happened. So if we go to the ballot box, I think we need to think about that. And we have to hold whoever comes into power, that they keep their word that they have given the people. I think both major parties who are in opposition have said that they will have an impartial investigation and get to the bottom of this. And I think that needs to be a critical, major factor going forward because these lives were lost so that somebody could gain politically,
Advantage.
right?
Advantage.
So it was callous, it was heartless. And I think people need to remember that anger, the fear, the anger, the hurt, right? And also think about the victims and their families.
1 week after the attack, Gotabaya Rajapaksa announced
Exactly,
his-
I want to come to
Yeah.
that.
announced his candidacy.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa is the candidate who came out about a week after the attacks,
Yeah.
within a week, and said, I'm going to run for presidency. He had, by the 13th of April, he had actually started his process of getting rid of his US citizenship. Now, this is before the Easter attacks. And, just after, everybody was like, okay, we need national security, bring back national security. Everybody, so many Catholics. I went and met Gotabaya Rajapaksa's private secretary, Sugishwara Bandar. You know what he said? Apita Migamu mehe, what do you call Migamu, Ligambo, that line, whole line had voted for them and that they will deliver justice. That is what they said to me.
So what they say and what they do are very different things.
That is after he was in power. When I was questioning why they were not doing anything. But they didn't do anything.
And when the commission... That's why we are here, right? That's why we are here. We know...
And when the commission... And when the commission gave the recommendations, what did Gotabaya Rajapaksa do? He called the cardinal and said, I can't implement these recommendations. That was the call that His Eminence.
Right. Whether it's divine justice or not, Gota is not there.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, he didn't deliver justice, but there some kind of justice happens. He was chased out. Right. Cascading effects from bringing him into power that eventually led to his departure too. Right. He came into power. People gave him 2/3, and he misused that 2/3 to accumulate more power. Made decisions that were catastrophic, and people chased him out. Right. So now we are in a position where the country, I mean, I think, the morally bankrupt leadership brought us to this place, right? Right? So expecting justice from this incarnation of an administration or a government is a joke at this point. It's not going to happen, right? And I think any process can't include people like Maithripala Sirisena or Gotabaya Rajapaksa. It needs to happen impartially.
The head of
right?
the police department is also held to be he
responsible.
He was behaving himself like a peon.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So basically, we have to urge the people to keep these things in mind when they go to the ballot box, and we as a group and as citizens we should hold them accountable to those promises that they give, right?
Exactly. And we have to keep on reminding the people.
Right.
People have a tendency to forget also.
Yeah.
I think we should do that.
Right. Exactly.
We
So,
have 9 months for the election. How many months?
well, we are hoping it will be October, right?
Yeah.
It has to be October.
Yeah. October 5th is the last day.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts around the table on this subject? Priyangani, any thoughts on
I
this?
think we should really fight, even as a small group, we ourselves should fight for justice for these people.
Right. Yeah. Actually, when you speak about justice, people think we are undermining a recovery, economic recovery. We get attacked like that all the time. Like today, we were talking about this. But we have to remind people he's not the president of the economy. He's the president of Sri Lanka. Right? He has a duty to the people, to the rule of law, to democracy. Right? A healthy democracy will need people like us speaking up on injustices and things
to what
like
you
this.
said, I'll give you a perfect example and a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Right? That is not that where you should focus on the economy.
Yeah.
Now and forget about justice for past seasons. That will just bog us down and all that type of thing. We need to focus. That will come later.
Yes.
That's what normally people say.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the economy. We can go to justice later.
Yeah.
Now under Gotabaya Rajapaksa's during his tenure, the sugar scam was 16 billion in 2020, right? So now what we are being told by those who support this Ranil Rajapaksa regime is, let's forget about those things. Let's have stability. Let's recover, and subsequently we can get back and look at these things.
Yeah.
Now the reason why we as activists keep saying no, we need to get to the bottom of these things is there's a perfect example here.
It happened again.
It happened again under Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was the current finance minister. Again, he messed around with the duty, and there was a 1 billion rupee scam for sugar imports. So if you do not sort this will recur. What is preventing this recurring? So that is why
accountability, there is no incentive for them to change their behavior.
That is
right. So the same things will keep repeating over and over again. It's the same cycles. So so shall we move on from this particular subject, because there's something else that's going on, I think, which is critical, and which is that kids in this country are going hungry. kids are going hungry, right? This is a direct consequence of the economic crisis, direct consequence mainly of a misguided decision by the former president to ban, to go completely organic fertilizer. I mean, there are other contributing factors, and not that malnutrition wasn't an issue before that. This has been an ongoing issue. We depend on the kindness of strangers donating money to organizations like UNICEF and the World Food Programme, who right now have appeals for Sri Lanka.
This is a UNICEF appeal.
I'm putting a screen grab from the UNICEF appeal. I'll just read it. Children are paying the price in Sri Lanka. 2.3 million children in Sri Lanka don't have enough to eat. Families wake up every day to increase food prices, struggling to provide for their children in a country where vital services like healthcare and education are being pushed to their limits. Sri Lanka's children are paying a heavy price in this crisis. Your donation today can help UNICEF deliver the food and medicine children in Sri Lanka need to survive, right? So this is not about giving a meal to a child as part of their education, as part of that's what happens in developed countries, right? Kids get a meal. When they go to school, they get a meal in the US,
So here,
in Europe.
doing that. In fact, before the crisis, it was 1.1 million children were getting it.
Yeah.
And that supposedly that number doubled the need.
The need, yeah.
Soon after the economic crisis and all that.
Right.
But the powers that be or the machinery takes so long to get it going. I know I was doing a paper at that time, and my first instinct was to ask how many children go to school, what are they being fed? You know, because they were hungry, they had so many things, and that prevented them going to school. So, I mean, they took their time, but I know that they sort of did another survey, and now about 1.6 million, not the 1.6 million children from January are getting some kind of
Sustenance.
Yeah, but again, it's very bad in areas like Noor area, Hackney,
Yes.
right? Malnutrition and.
In fact, I'm coming to that. I have a slide on that. I have some stats on that. Yes. Shall I
Stability
carry on?
for some.
No, so basically, let me just read a quote. Okay, I mean, it's heartbreaking when you hear this. Tulakshan, age 5, lives with his mother and 3-year-old sister, Tulakshika, in the Sri Lankan district of Batikyo. Tulakshika is underweight. With the economic crisis biting hard, Tulakshan's mother doesn't know how long she can continue to feed her 2 children. My main concern is about the health and nutrient levels of my children, their mother says. Our income is getting worse by the day, and grocery prices are increasing. It's so hard for us to live like this. Up to 70% of families in Sri Lanka face dangerous food shortage. 70% of families, right? I mean, it's very easy to live in an urban bubble, right? Where yeah, I mean, when I sometimes look at my social media feed, right, I see everything happening as it's normal, right? Fashion shows and this, and events and functions, which should happen. I'm not saying like they don't have a right. Please keep in mind that, don't minimize the suffering of others just because you have, that you are able to, right? I mean, we are all middle class around here. Don't we feel the pinch? We do,
Actually,
right?
one point is that at least they can't get protein in the form of fish and
Yeah.
meat.
Yeah.
At least they were able to buy an egg for
Right.
30 rupees. Now 2 years, they could not solve the problem of eggs.
Eggs,
Eggs are 65 rupees now or more.
yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit of protein that the child could get. Or even the parents should
Right.
get, not only the children. They must have protein. And I can't understand why we had this problem with eggs.
I think part of the issue was again going back to
It's Tommy and Cox,
Yeah.
the various laws and
according to Rani.
import restrictions and all that came in because the animal feed was not brought in.
The
Yeah.
poultry feed.
The poultry feed.
But then,
Actually, that was also as a result of the economic, the organic fertilization. It affected animal feed.
yeah, I know they
Yeah.
restricted that, but now they should be able to bring that in. No, I mean, why 2 years down the line? I mean, if they can bring.
No,
forward-
because they're more interested in showing an accumulation of dollars in the central bank, right? Because that is their measure of stability, not the lack of protein for children, right? Right now there's 4 billion or something that we have accumulated. because we are not spending it on importing
But on the other hand,
right?
they're importing eggs. That's the formula eggs.
Because I'm sure somebody's cut a deal there,
Definitely,
right?
this is what I'm saying.
There's another stat. The milk consumption, milk powder consumption, like so many people have now stopped consuming milk altogether. Like they've gone out of the market altogether. So that the demand for milk has shrunk. That means where would that reduction come from? From the poorest, right?
Yes.
People who are drinking milk tea are now drinking plain
Plain tea.
tea. Children who are drinking milk are probably not drinking milk.
And the suppliers, instead of having 500 ml packets, they are having now 200 ml.
Right, just to
Because they can,
correct.
that's what they can afford, you know.
Right.
These are facts, you know.
And medicines are
Yeah.
also because of this import. I mean, they say now import restrictions are okay, everything is hunky-dory, but then, I mean, medication, some medicines,
Yeah.
you have to go hunting.
I know. So let's stick to this topic. So now I think yesterday the president launched this particular school lunch initiative, right? It was widely covered with lots of fanfare. I think everybody standing behind there served a meal, right? Fantastic. So good photo opportunity and all that. But the gentleman in the grey jacket there, right? He should get the plaudits because he's from the World Food Program, and this is actually an initiative by the WFP. It's a WFP supported initiative.
The gentleman in the
In the grey jacket, he's the World Food Program head in Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
right?
Shaminda, I'm going to correct you there. He's not. That's Roshan Gunatilaka.
No, Abdul Rahim Siddiqui.
But
Well, maybe I don't know. So it's
Yeah.
one of these
Yeah, but
gentlemen.
so
So maybe he didn't even come for this.
possible.
Right? But this is the tweet by the UN.
Okay.
Okay, that basically says that school meal program was inaugurated by the president.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the WFP has organized this program for many years.
Many years,
now,
exactly.
Right? And they have been focusing particularly in the north, east area and electrically. And what they tried to do was also to give work to poor farmers who couldn't get work. So they supplied them with the necessary.
go speak in that.
So they sort of help them with their production and fields and whatever, and they also assure them of taking the food, the produce from them, and they also did the poultry farming, right? So one of the things that they tried to do was like to give. They made the lunch packets for these children from this. So they were trying this program and trying to stretch it into different areas. So like at least the kid gets again
Some sort of sustenance.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they were helping on both sides because they were helping the farmers as well.
That's fantastic.
So right now it's actually the NGOs, the non-government organizations that are much maligned NGOs, right? That are actually making sure that kids are fed. Right now, what's pertinent here is we are still a bankrupt country, right? But we have money for pageants, we have money for overseas trips, all of that is there. That is why it becomes relevant. I mean, shouldn't any available resource just be directed only towards this? Just direct assistance, feeding these children, right? I mean, ultimately we need to fix
and
the system.
medicine.
Food and medicine. But I mean, this is, much maligned socialism, like giving something, right? Direct assistance to people who need it the most. But the ultimate solution, yes, I mean, if we are giving a meal to a child as part of a school program where everybody gets it, has access to it, that is fantastic, right? But that's not what's happening here. This is a response to a malnutrition crisis. You see what I mean?
They take
So,
to that level.
right. I mean, I think, there needs to be a whole of government approach to this where we say we are going to cut back on every excess. Are people going to complain that we don't have a pageant?
Independence Day.
Or you know what I mean? Like, or these multiple overseas trips for weddings and funerals and all that's gone on. I mean, there should have been a crisis response to this right now. We are glad it's happening at least now. Remember, a child brought green chilies and was eating for school. That was last year, Chris, or year before.
There is a coconut one there.
Right, a full mother or something, and then I mean, we have been talking about it, highlighting it for so long. So when I saw this, my first reaction was, great, it's finally happening, right? But it's kind of sad that it just became a mindless photo opportunity.
No, Chamja, I think
There's nothing to celebrate, quite frankly.
I think
we have failed.
we need to call this what it is. This is just politicking and election coming close.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 2 years he's been president, suddenly he's realized that people are,
I saw a news article about the cost of a kilometer for state vehicles.
I know. Okay, hang on. We'll get to that. No, let's give some stats about the true nature of the issue, right? Underweight girls. I mean, the report goes into child wasting. There are kids who are wasting, right? Not just about malnutrition.
Stunting.
Stunting and things like that. So, underweight girls, according to the Lancet study, 410,000 girls aged 5 to 19 in Sri Lanka are underweight, representing 16.4% of the total age group. Underweight boys, the same study reveals that 450,000 boys in Sri Lanka are underweight with a prevalence rate of 17.8%.
That's 1 million kids.
1 million kids together.
In
a 2 million. Overall, underweight children combining data from boys and girls, a total of 806,000 children in Sri Lanka are underweight. Children under 5, recent data from Sri Lanka Ministry of Health indicates that in 2022, more than 43.4% of children under 5 in the country are suffering from nutrition problems. That's nearly half the kids in this country, right? In 2022. Right, so I don't think the situation has got any better now. Right?
they haven't done this survey in Parliament, no? There are 225 parliamentarians.
They're fine. I mean, all those guys who are serving those meals to those kids are with pot bellies and all that. So, types of undernutrition. Among children under 5, 42.9% suffering from some form of undernutrition, including being underweight, stunted, or wasting. Come on, man, wasting. I mean, that's just tragic.
There's 4.1 million children school going. Right, so 4.1, and you can see like 2.2.
It's almost half. It's half who are in distress, right? These are the children of working families in this country who are suffering and struggling. So sometimes there's such a disconnect, right? Because we live in this urban environment. When we walk into a supermarket, everything is there. We can afford to pay any price and buy these things. But inflation is down to single digits, but the prices haven't come down. That is the critical point. And wages haven't gone up.
No.
Wages haven't gone up. Minimum wage was just increased to 17,800 from 12,000. Right? That will affect government servants, I think, right? Does it affect the private sector? Only now, today, like this week.
But does anybody pay such a low basic anyway?
Possible.
I mean, we can afford to cut back.
Yes.
We can.
Yeah.
But majority of these people there's nothing more for them to cut back.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So
when this Lancet report came out, the first thing the government did was reject it. They rejected it. They're rejecting. Now, their own health ministry statistics talks about 42.9% malnutrition, but when the report comes up, the government rejects it. So denial. Then when there's aid coming in through the kindness of strangers, they are there to take the photo and take credit. Right? So I think this is the nature of politics that needs to change, right?
And also shoot the messenger, Dr. Tamal Sanjeeva, who at a press conference highlighted the malnutrition in children, was suspended and whatever for speaking the truth.
Right, exactly.
But
There is also good for the government.
You also have to understand for the teachers and all that at different levels, there's help going on. Like all the NGOs do small areas. I think Save the Children a lot in Badulla and work.
Yeah.
So they can only do a small amount of them. So regularly they've been doing work. So I think a lot of NGOs have been doing that. But I've also heard stories in schools where teachers just come, they bring an extra packet and they put it into a box and they leave it. Whoever needs the food comes and just takes. They don't know what it is, but each teacher brings in something and puts it.
Yeah.
So it's a community.
Community
It's the community stepping up to the plate,
Damaris,
not the government.
This is all great. This is good. But I think what we are trying to find fault or bring attention to is the fact that while this is happening, our government, it should be spearhead and we should be setting the benchmark and setting an example. when the president makes 15 overseas trips within 16 months, when his air ticket alone for the Queen's funeral is found to be now through 5.6 million rupees. When the air ticket alone is, you wonder, right? What are our rulers doing?
But by the way, today there was a report out. It was I just read it just before this. Highest levels of poverty is in the Western Province.
Western province.
In the Western Province, highest levels of poverty.
Quite possible.
So that is showing you the inequality, right? Now, also this Lancet report, when you drill it down, these stats are really bad when you look at marginalized communities. You go towards the estates, you go to the north and east, it gets bad. Then you go to like the marginalized communities, it's really terrible, right? I mean, they are in a bad situation as it is, right? So they are right at the back of the queue, So whatever's happening, first will go to like the bigger whatever, right? And then it gets passed down. So those who need it the most will get it last.
Yeah. So the Western province issue is probably the urban poor.
Yes.
That's what's reflecting those stats.
There's a
right?
big population.
Yeah. Also, people in the middle classes who have gone into distress. That is also a big issue now. I mean, I know the amount of like people who come and ask us for direct assistance, right? I'm sure you get that too, right? People who come begged or
You can't beg.
you know what I mean? Like who are like in a helpless situation. So
And a lot of people say that when they get their salaries, they put a little bit into the light bill account, a little bit into
Oh my
the
gosh,
water
guys.
bill
Right,
account.
yeah, exactly.
I need to tell you all something.
Yeah.
Since you mentioned that, I need to tell you all something. So our company has 2 banks, and one of the banks I met with them recently to speak about our facilities. And this manager was telling me, with this current taxing, a lot of their salary, and they are living, by the 20th, their salary is over. This is the manager, okay?
They're taking a little longer.
Yeah, she's earning, generally a manager, Anyway, by 20th it's over. No, the balance how they run is on the credit cards.
credit card.
Yeah.
Credit cards and salary advances. I know that for a fact.
And she said on the credit card, and then when the time comes, they said that, that is how they're rolling.
They're rolling.
So I got a shock is now bank managers are, generally they are.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true to the cost.
I mentioned it because you mentioned this.
Yeah.
Now,
Chirandi,
if we
sorry.
go on like this, in this country we will have the rich and the poor. There won't be a
Haves and have-nots.
Yeah.
Haves and have-nots. There'll be nothing in the middle. Yeah. Sorry, you were talking about wasteful spending, right? Roads or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Make that
because
point.
the vehicles, there was a report that came out about the state vehicles are around per kilometer, it's around 300 to 500 rupees it costs. So everybody was like, okay, let them drive Picnic. I mean, it's
Might
worth
be
to
cheaper.
drive the Picnic than to, if a state vehicle is consuming 300 rupees per kilometer.
Yeah.
I mean,
But there's a point here in a country that's bankrupt. No minister drives less than like a V8 or a Merc or an S-Class or a BMW.
So what are the sacrifices they have made, Cham?
That is
Yeah.
Exactly.
my pet peeve.
Yeah.
What sacrifices have
We are
they made?
VAT from 15 to 18%, we know taxes.
I think we have to appeal to people, Chris, to become like single issue voters, right? Vote based on the issue that you care about and think who's doing what. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, for me, that alone is enough not to vote for
And
any of these
government-
guys who are
government
in power.
expenditure instead of coming down has gone up. How
Yeah.
much
I
more
saw
does
We are
it pay?
spending
Billions
3 trillion more or something like that.
Some billions being spent on the government vehicles. Did you see that?
Yes.
Some 22 billion or something like
Yeah.
that vehicles, where there should be
Yeah. So,
public
Transport.
transport.
so talking about government spending, COPE committee. Our new chairman is embattled. He's 9 other committee members, including Iran Vikramaratna and Sharif Behera, a whole bunch have resigned. But he's still there. It's like, why can't I was elected by the people? If I'm good enough for the people, why can't I be the COPE chairman? So you want to explain why he can't be the COPE chairman? Anybody wants to?
What
Do
is
that?
the quorum needed for this committee?
4.
4?
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Could there be enough SLPP?
So,
Yeah.
Roads.
I mean, this is the basic issue for people
No,
can
it's-
run for.
This is the thing. So right now, our parliament is not a representative body, right? How do we know this? because the recent no confidence motion, two no confidence motions defeated by the same number of votes, 117. So for this particular vote, this one, they were a little worried about the no confidence. They actually called people who are overseas to come and vote. They actually recalled. This is all reported. So let me just read the charges against the speaker. Yeah, exactly. Because it was the same majority that exonerated Kehelia Ramukpella, who's now languishing in jail. Right? He's languishing in jail because of the medical scam, right, that went on in the health ministry. So right now, failure to uphold the rights of opposition members, particularly in appointments such as the chairman of the finance committee. Mishandling the approval process for the appointment of Inspector General of Police, Deshabandhu Tendakon, by the Constitutional Council. Alleged bias towards opposition allocating time during debates, because now they have to balance the scales.
Yeah.
So now now the other side is saying no, he's biased towards the opposition. So I'm just telling you how the debate went. Okay, accusations of endorsing bills that were not duly passed in Parliament, specifically referencing the online safety bill. I think Sumandaran, Honorable Sumandaran has spoken at length on this. Alleged irresponsibility in decision making, particularly concerning matters of national security, is evidenced by the handling of the IGP appointment. These are not, like simple things, right? These are not something you can just easily dismiss, right? But with this composition in Parliament, can anything get done? And do you want to return these same people to continue to filibuster like this? Right?
That is something that the people will really have to think.
Yeah.
Really. But I personally don't believe that they will get votes, including the famous president.
President will.
But Chamin, if he's not elected, it's going to be a big loss for him and his family. You know, about 6 of his family members are working.
But by the way, the 3-day debate for the in Parliament on this no confidence motion costs the taxpayer 45 million rupees.
What?
Yeah. That's because it costs 15 million a day for a parliamentary session.
15 million?
A day, yeah. For a parliamentary session, per day, the cost is 15 million to the taxpayer. That's the cost of maintaining this parliament per day. So every session per day is 15 million. So for the 3 days they debated this no confidence motion, which I think it was good that it was debated. I think it's good to get these people on the record, right? Exonerating this clearly partisan and rather hackish man. Right? It was good to get those same people on the record about the Kehelia exoneration as well, right? Because when the courts, now it's in the hands of the courts, but he's in jail right now, right? And they said there was nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with the job he did as health minister.
Specifically against the speaker who has done something bad towards the youth, especially the online. We are not talking about some different act. We are not talking about terrorism act. We are talking about the very act that the youth of this country, the future of the youth depend on this type of act not to suppress them.
Right.
So
there was a notable absentee during that vote, which is Namal Rajapaksa, who today has been appointed the national organizer for the SLPP. So I think the plan is their plan is President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister Namal Rajapaksa. I'm guessing that's the plan right now. He's the leader of the SLPP. De facto leader, right? If you're the national organizer, of course, the father's still there, right? I think somebody's puppet strings to keep him walking still. But he's still there.
I listened to a YouTuber, it's okay if I mention
Yes.
YouTuber saying why Basil wanted the general election first, because he wanted to have the general election and Ranil to use his presidential powers to appoint Namal Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister, 52-week guard.
That is being floated, yeah. I mean,
that is what
if they get a 5-year term, they can do whatever they want, right? I mean, if they get right now with no mandate, they're doing whatever they want. Imagine if they come in with a mandate.
And also, I think they feel that
Yeah.
if there is a presidential election, they have no chance of winning it now.
Yeah.
That then the general election following presidential election,
Yeah.
they will win even less.
These cartoonists are brilliant, a cartoonist sometimes.
I have to say Basil is a smart guy. because he knows.
Mula hatai.
Seven
Yeah,
brains.
yeah, but he is asking for the parliamentary election first, because they have now created some ghost parties like
Yeah.
of the SLPP in another vision. Like,
They will perform a little better in a parliamentary than they will ever do in a presidential. They know
Exactly.
that. They know that. So if they win not win, if they get a sizable number of seats, it could
help them
it could help them in a
survive.
presidential. You know,
Help
depending on
them
what the
survive.
composition is and things like that. Yeah, exactly. But whilst they're exonerating the speaker, exonerating Kehelia, they're still imprisoning activists for doing things that are completely within the constitution, which is protesting.
Yeah.
So what's significant here is that these three were arrested. These are all three former student leaders who are now in the more political sphere. They had an event called the Janaraga there. As usual, attacked by the police, water cannon, all of that stuff. And then they arrested a huge amount that day. All of them have been bailed out by this one particular judge. I'm not saying that there's an issue with the judge. I'm just saying that he seems to want to not release these three who were arrested under the same conditions. But why? I mean, does the law not apply equally?
That is
Marisa,
because
in fact, I
on the
spoke.
side of the judge, it is because that they were bailed out earlier for similar.
Yeah, but is there a law that says that is the way that you can't protest?
Exactly.
Yeah, was part of their bail conditions that they can't protest? I don't know. Maybe we need to dig deeper, but no, but they can do that, no? Because somebody who was here mentioned that when they were bailed out, part of the bail condition was that they couldn't
Yes.
complain or violate or something
The
like
thing
that.
is this, the problem here is the protest that they took part in was dispersed, saying it was an illegal, Ayutu Janarashi. How can you say Ayutu Janarashi just because it causes a traffic blockage? Now, if you get a funeral procession going from A to B to the cemetery, you will get a small block.
Yeah.
But that does not mean these protest marchers, they are not stagnated in one place, so they are also traveling.
Protest.
For a march, you're going to get police permission?
No, you don't need
No, that is something that they have come up with.
It's
It's not in the law.
You need to inform the police, but even if you don't inform the police, they can only disperse you if you break public peace. Now they are using that, police but they are announcing that and dispersing that under the pretext that it is disturbance.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
So
what
whatever it is, they are not treated under the law. The law should be blind, right? That's why that Lady Justice wears a blindfold, right? Law, it should apply equally to everybody. But for some reason, these three have been singled out, and they are still in remand custody. But nobody seems to know why they have been singled out. So I think it's up to us. I think it's only right that we point this out, right? So whilst they're doing that, so people who are inside can come out with pardons and then be given significant positions. I thought this news curry is very quick and they're very good, right? Like they sometimes
They're brilliant.
capture
So
these
I
moments
actually
rather
missed this.
brilliantly.
He has been appointed a minister, is it?
Yeah. So
No, this is new, right? This is new. So was it
the
appointed?
news curry was. Yeah,
So
this
it's a
was
new.
today.
It's a new. Okay.
Yeah,
But
they're
the
basically
appointment is
pointing out the irony, right? They're
right,
pointing out the
okay.
irony
Got
of
it.
the
Okay.
situation. About the free, because the free lunch, they're linking the free lunch, get out of jail free card, and then the appointment and all of that. So we've already spoken about this. Is there anything more that we need to speak about on this particular subject? No? Okay, so that's really it for the slides today. Anything else that you guys feel that we need to talk about around the table
elections.
today?
Elections need to happen.
Elections. Yeah.
Elections need to happen, and as regular citizens fighting for good governance and system change, we would like to urge people to either vote for the SJB or the NPP. And if you're voting for SJB, use your second option for the NPP. Or if you're voting for NPP, use your second option for the SJB.
Yeah.
Simply because we do not see any solution with the other three parties which have ruled our country over the last, taking turns over the last 75
I guess,
years.
Chris, I think let's clarify. It's sort of like process of elimination.
Yes.
Not that we are endorsing anyone.
No, not at all.
I mean, we are a non-partisan group. Somebody asked me this question about economic policy. Which economic vision do we endorse? I said, look, we have members who are left, who are right, who are center.
Correct.
Right? We fight for like equity, right? For justice and accountability. And if you have an economic system that builds those things, bakes those things into the cake, then you will have an economy that works for everyone. I think that's something that we can get behind, right? We are supporting one vision over another, right?
No,
people should decide. People can decide based on.
Certainly not saying that these are the two parties I mentioned are ideal.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I just mention something?
Yes.
I think we need to stop hero worshipping.
Yeah.
Whether it's AKD or Ranil or SP and all of that, and look at policies.
Yeah.
Look at manifestos, right? And hold them accountable to those things.
Actually,
Right?
Chamin, in that sense,
debate between even SJB and NPP should be about comparing and contrasting their manifestos. Right now, what we're seeing is even they are just attacking each other. It's mindless. You know what I mean? Like we all lose.
There is a danger to that actually, because there are also people who are saying they won't vote.
Yeah.
They won't vote at all.
Yeah.
So that's another problem, because that means a vote that is not cast. It could be a vote that is taken by somebody, because we know that free and fair elections don't always happen in the country. So I think it's very important for everyone to vote, to participate in that process. And however depressed you might feel, and however much you might feel that there's no point, you need to go out there and cast your vote.
Yeah. Open your eyes. Number one. Stay engaged.
Be critical about who you are voting for, and exercise your vote.
I think it was very encouraging.
The rice and the landing and whatever you're being given from whoever gives it.
Chamin, there are definitely no solutions with the SLPP, UNP or SLFP. Right? So, I mean, when an election comes, voters have to choose from what is available.
You know, Chris, a lot of people tell me, because they know like we are engaged in, sometimes they come and tell me, I'm not interested in politics. Right? My reply is, but politics is interested in you. Whether you're interested or not, look at your salary now. Like, look at, whatever you're going through, right? If you went by tuk-tuk, you're going by bus now, right? I mean, that is politics impacting you today, right? So, that is why I think, although sometimes you are apolitical, but there are things you care about. What do you care about the most? That's why I say single issue voters are important. Maybe the Easter tax will move you, right? Think about that as your issue. Then where would you go? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it could be food prices. It could be EPF, ETF, right? EPF, ETF was sacrificed for this recovery. Who does that affect? All of us, right?
All of us.
All of us, right? But who didn't sacrifice for the recovery? Right? Bondholders,
bankers. Banks.
So this is what I mean. That I think it's important that people think about what affects them, even if they're not interested in politics. So open your eyes a little bit at least. At least think about what matters to you, right? Maybe it's your family, maybe whatever it is, and then vote based on that.
Chamin, I think it was very encouraging to listen to Prashant Divisa here a few weeks ago. That there are options for people now. New parties coming up, and we hope that more such people come forward. More young people.
Absolutely. I think we need more people.
If you look at what some of their what should I say, their policies.
The other point I hear a lot is that no point. What's the point? Why are we doing this? What's the point? I mean, what we are doing is a generational project. Like, things we want to see might not happen in our lifetime, right? But does that mean that we don't try? Right? Like, we educate our kids because we hope that someday they'll have a better life, right? That's an investment we make for something that we might not live to see, right? You have to think about the country in the same terms. You have to invest in something so that you leave a positive footprint down the road. Anyway, that's my say. Anything else? No? Isha, you want to get your quote?
Quote, okay. So my quote is again, it's all linked to justice and all of that, and the fact that in the current system, why we want system change, it cannot happen in the current system because the accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive and judiciary in the same hands, whether one or few or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed or elective, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny, and I think that is what we are living under now.
Yeah.
This is by President James Madison.
So can I just make a quick point on that? We are sort of seeing these powers bleed into each other right now, right? Like the president is ignoring the judiciary, taking
the
constitution and taking over ministries. So I don't know whether you heard the news yesterday or day before. He has last year. There was a corporate. There's something Aksha investment or something like that, which was under the Ministry of Highways and the RDA. He removed it from that and took it into the finance ministry. Okay? This company. A very random event. Two institutions he removed and took into the finance ministry. That was last year. Yesterday, he took all the highways, operation of the highways, out of the RDA, which is under the highway ministry, and put it into that company. Why?
You know what's happening next?
Why? What is the logic there? Because that
So we
company
know
was
that-
under the RDA. He removed that company from the RDA, right? It's an investment company belonging to the government. And now he took it into the finance ministry last year, right? To me, that looks like self-dealing. There's something happening that we don't see. Because why remove the highways from the RDA? You know it's been removed, right?
I didn't know.
Makes no
I honestly
sense.
didn't.
This is RTO.
No,
It doesn't make
yes,
sense
It's been taken
at
out of the
all.
RDA and moved into this company, which is now directly under his control and the finance ministry. And that he removed that company from the RDA last year and put it into the finance ministry. Now he removed the highways from the RDA and put it into that company.
Seems
Right?
to be very.
This is self-dealing. Right? So I maybe I'm connecting dots that don't exist, but to me that looks a little dodgy, right? A little sus, right? And also a lot of appointments going on.
I was just about the president's chief of staff.
People are
Now
getting-
that VOC is not dodgy at all.
And during the time of an SOE restructure, key people are being positioned with an election coming up. The president's media division, which is paid for by the taxpayer, is like a propaganda account for the re-election of the president. And you've seen it, right?
It is.
And sometimes they blatantly tweet things or put out things which talk about re-election campaigns. You know, a couple of times I tweeted at them and said, look, who do you work for? The people, or do you work for the re-election? So
I mean, you had the Bank of Ceylon chairman who was.
that is kind of like tyranny.
Does anyone know what are the deals that Prime Minister went to India?
China, he signed some deals. No?
9 projects.
Yeah.
9.
They mentioned 9 projects, but they didn't say what the 9
What
projects
the
were.
9
They didn't
projects
say. Maybe next week we'll know a little bit more. Next week. Anyway, so this is by James. That quote was by James Madison, one of the founding fathers of the USA. I mean, most modern democracies are based on that US Constitution with devolved powers, right? 3 branches, which is supposed to act as a check and a balance. And they came up with that constitution when they devolved power from a monarchy. And they said, look, that's why I said, you know, we don't want a monarch again. We don't want, you know, it can't be like a family. I mean, that's direct referencing family. So thanks, Risha, as usual. You know, you find the right quote for the right read. Anything else, guys? You okay? Shanta's taking a bit of a wander. Hi. Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Right, so that's it from day 267. We'll be back on Sunday for the Easter commemoration. I think we'll do something special, right? So anybody who's in the area, please do join us. Thank you all. Thank you, CK, for putting this on. So that's a wrap from us. Thank you and good night.